This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is a great platform for building your online presence and running your business with websites, online stores, marketing, and analytics. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a themed Q&A around work and business. My last video was me just word vomiting about my experiences and thoughts around the influencer industry, and I thought I would ask to see what you wanted to know about how I work, my business, creativity, YouTube, social media, and all of that kind of stuff. So let's just dive into the questions, because I love talking about this kind of thing. I asked for these questions over on my Instagram, which, if you didn't know, is @HannahWitton. You can follow me there if you fancy. The first question that came in, a real doozy. Do you ever feel like just stopping YouTube? Yes. I feel like I've talked about this multiple times, but sometimes I just feel like I've run my course on this platform and it's time to move on and do something else. I don't know what that something else would be, but oftentimes this feeling kind of comes and goes in waves in terms of its intensity. So it's kind of always there, but some phases, some months, it's harder to ignore than others. I don't know. I have no answers. I feel like I'm trapped sometimes. Oh, what fun! I don't know, but I still have a really good time. Doing something like this, I love talking about this shit on YouTube. I don't know. Anything you don't like / enjoy about the sex ed industry / working in sex ed? It's abysmally low paid. I've been able to make a career out of it because of my crossover into YouTube, social media, the influencer marketing industry. But if you're just doing sex education in its purest form, teaching people, going into schools and not doing any branded stuff, not becoming an internet famous person or whatever, the money is hard to come by. And one of the things that always frustrates me is when I compare my YouTube ad revenue to other friends who are in a different field, have a more ad friendly topic to their YouTube channels. It's bad. Do you have an end goal? Is there one thing you want to achieve in your career? I feel like I have vague end goals, but I don't really have anything concrete that's this is a thing that I want to achieve. Pretty much for my entire career, it's just been a making it up as I go along kind of situation. But I recently did this 3-month weekly group thing with Jack, the CEO of Patreon, and some other Patreon creators, where we met weekly and talked about the business of being a creator and stuff, and set goals and figured out what was going on in our businesses and what we wanted to do and achieve and things, and got help from the group. And one of the things that came out of that I realized that I wanted is I want to work part-time. I want to get to a position where I can work 3 days a week. That is my current goal. We shall see. Is this your dream job? No, because I never dreamed of this job. I still don't really know what my dream job is. I remember when I was younger, I would say to my mum that I wanted a job where I could wear a fancy dress, high heels, but I called them clippity-cloppity shoes, and I wanted a clipboard. So I basically just wanted to walk up and down an office making noise with my fancy clippity-cloppity shoes with a clipboard, organizing things and bossing people around. And here I am in my slippers. I don't know. It's pretty dreamy. It is a pretty dreamy job. It has its moments. But this wasn't something that I ever set out to do. Ooh, what's the hiring process like when you hire? It's a lot of time on my part. I have to make sure all of the content stuff is all super organized, and we're in a not very busy period of work in order to even do the hiring process. I need help hiring. But how it's looked the 2 times that I've done it is I put a call out on my social media, especially for the assistant kind of role. For me, it makes sense that it's someone from my audience, someone who is familiar with my content. And that's basically because you can teach skills, but you can't teach people to care about the message. and like sex ed and sex positivity and inclusivity and like all of these things. I can't teach that. I mean, you can try, but teaching skills is much easier than teaching values. So that's why I just post it on my social media channels and do a call out there. I have a separate email address that all of that stuff goes to, so I can like keep it separate, and then I will just like go through all of the applications. Unfortunately, I can't like actually get back to everyone. The only people that I tend to respond to are the people who like make it to the next stage. And then what I've done is like stage 2 has been like a little task, and maybe I give that task to like 10 or 12 people of something that might relate to the job, and like see how they do and see what they come up with. And then from there, I'll pick like a handful of people to interview. I think last time I interviewed like 4 or 5 people, maybe, in person, pre-pandemic. But yeah, so that's what the process has looked like so far in the times that I have hired people. Ooh, this is a good question. How do you manage to swap between creative and admin so easily? And actually, the answer is I don't. And I try and like block time for creative stuff like filming videos, and then like the more kind of like managerial admin tasks, and I try and keep them as separate as possible and like chunk out time in the calendar to do those. It used to be that I would just like interrupt myself if I was like editing when I used to edit videos with emails, and like no. So that's how I do it. I tend to break up my days into like just the morning and the afternoon. If I'm doing something that's more creative, like planning videos, filming videos, writing scripts for videos, like doing like a big task, I'd like to try and give myself like at least a 2-hour chunk to do that. And then admin stuff can go in the afternoon. I'm better at the creative stuff in the mornings. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Is it difficult to prove income, etc. for mortgages and rent and other life things? Yes, kind of. So I had this a few years ago when I bought my flat, and I was doing that by myself. So not with my now husband, Dan. And with the accounts that I had at the time, the banks were looking at, I had 2 years of self-employed records and 1 year of company records, which is not great because they like to have at least 2 years of company records. Anyway, the mortgage that I was offered was super low. So I had to like put forward a really big cash deposit, which luckily I was in the position that I could do that. But then like 2 years later, when we remortgaged to put Dan on the mortgage and buy out the government Help to Buy loan, having Dan on that mortgage who has like a normal person, like salaried PAYE like company job, suddenly the banks are like, yeah, we'll offer you like all of this money. And I was like, fine, it's fine. But yeah, that was wild. It was like the banks would offer us more than double what they offered just me. We didn't even need all of the money that the banks were offering us. We were like, no, we're good. We don't need all of that. Thank you, though. But yeah, it can be a bit tricky. But just get a good accountant. Ooh, are you continuing to work a 4-day week? So I would like to be, but been going through some health stuff recently. So I've actually barely been working at all. But when I get back to working full time, yes, I want to try and continue doing the 4-day week. That would be great. Ooh, speaking of health stuff, do you find it difficult to take sick leave because you're self-employed? Yes, but because I have gone through my fair share of health crises, I have really like internalized the value of just being like, I'm sick, I'm off, like I'm not working. But yeah, it is really difficult, and it's really scary because, you know, like I'm still here filming these videos because, you know, I had contracts and I like have to still post these. And then also I was like, I don't want to go like a whole month without posting videos. So there have been times during this sick leave that I'm on technically where I'm still working, like, but I'm like pushing myself through, and it has sucked. And yeah, it's like figuring out that balance of like, okay, I'm going to trim back on all of this stuff. Yes, I will take an income hit. Thankfully, I have amazing patrons. Like, I posted on my Patreon just being like, guys, this is the situation. There's not going to be as much content, so I totally understand if you want to like cancel your pledge for this month, as there's not going to be as much stuff. And the like overwhelming response was like, no, obviously, Hannah, we're not going to cancel our pledge, because the reason why we like to support creators on Patreon is so that they can look after their health and not have to worry about things like finances and be able to like take a break from their work. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why I support people on Patreon too. So that was just really lovely. And yeah, I've had to like say no to a lot of other like paid gigs, but that's why stuff like Patreon is so valuable to creators, because you can take sick leave, but it is still tricky. Like, I still have had to like work through feeling like absolute shite. When working on brand deals, will they always ask to see the content before you make it live? Yes, that is in 100% of like the brand deals that I've done where there is financial compensation for the work. Part of the deal is that the brand has to like approve everything before it goes public. If it's something that isn't paid, like if it's like a gifting thing, then they have no say over if or what I say. And speaking of brand deals, thank you Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I host a bunch of my different websites on Squarespace, like Doing It podcast and the Hormone Diaries, and it is a great platform for building your online presence and running your business. They have loads of different beautiful themes and designs to choose from, and you can customize them with your own brand colors and fonts and pictures and words and all of that, so you can have a really beautiful, stunning website that represents you and your business. We recently rebranded and updated the Doing It podcast website and are slowly but surely adding the backlog of all of the transcripts for every single episode onto the website. We've had a few requests about transcripts, so we are making it happen. And I absolutely just love the new colors and the new design, and doing everything on Squarespace is super easy. And Squarespace also has some really powerful analytics tools, so you can get to know your audience better. You can learn how people interact with your content, traffic sources, how long they stay on your website, and audience geography, and so many more insights. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you are ready to launch, you can use my code squarespace.com/morehannah for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Would you like to do more work in schools? Yes. This is something that I'm always going back and forth with, and there are kind of like two things that are the main factors in this. One is money and time. So if I were to do school visits and do workshops and talks and stuff in school, that is a huge amount of a time investment from me, because it's something that I haven't done before. So like writing lesson plans, practicing, and then like traveling to the schools to deliver the talks, and then traveling back. So it's very time intensive, and so it would take time away from what I'm currently doing. So I would need to reevaluate what I'm doing here and make time for that. And it's not as well paid. So that is a big factor. It's like, okay, I would have to stop doing the work that pays me more in order to spend time on doing something that will pay me less. So that's one thing, even though it's something that I really want to at least try and see if I like it and I'm good at it. And that brings me on to factor number 2 is imposter syndrome. It's like, I just am scared. I don't know if I'd be good at it. Like, I don't feel qualified, which is so ridiculous, because I've done sex education training. I'm also currently doing like my sex educator certification course. So like, I am qualified and I will be qualified, but actually the thing that I think does make you qualified is experience, and that's what I don't have. But I know plenty of people and organizations who do go into schools. So actually one of the things that I would want to do is like offer to just like support them and help them out, like shadow or just like be an assistant to them, just to kind of like do it but having someone else there who like knows what they're doing and get that experience. But then again, that comes back to the time thing, and in that situation, like I would offer my services for free or cheap. It's something that I really want to do, but it would involve just like a massive restructure and changing up of my entire business. If when you have a child, do you think you will take maternity leave and not touch your work? So yes, I would love to be able to take like some full on not doing any work at all maternity leave. But because of the nature of my job, I think the max I'd be able to do of that is like a couple of months. And then I would want to be like part-time or something. I don't know. I need to figure stuff out. It's interesting because a lot of YouTubers that I watch are now becoming parents, and so it's really cool to kind of see how they're navigating like taking time off. Like my friend Sierra basically took 3 months off her main channel entirely, but was still like posting vlogs to her vlog channel. Jessica took, I think, like 6 weeks off entirely. Yeah, it's just interesting to see. I'm like watching how like other YouTubers are doing things. I mean, like, how would I do things if/when I have a child? How do you schedule your week to keep on top of everything? So I use calendar blocking, and I'm still using calendar blocking. I made a whole video about it. I think I've made like 2 videos about calendar blocking now. That was something that I'd been playing around with and like doing on and off for a while, but earlier this year really just kind of like went for it, and it's been great for me. So that's how I schedule everything. At what point did you decide to hire someone? When I felt so drowned and I was like, there are so many things that I want to do that I can't do because I do not have the capacity. There are so many things that are just like falling apart around me, and things that I don't feel like I'm doing well enough, and I would need the support. So maybe that's like too late to be like hiring someone. I don't know what the like business savvy thing is. It's like, do you hire someone before you need them, or do you hire someone when you like desperately need someone? I don't know. But so far for me, it's been like hiring when I desperately need someone. How have you been able to combine working full time with studying your sex ed stuff? So again, this comes back to the calendar blocking. So like Wednesday has been my day for doing all of my IC, which is the school that I do my sex ed stuff through. Wednesday is the day, and I just have it like blocked out in my calendar, and that's when I do it. I'm lucky that I have like a team around me. So I like have my assistant, and I have my video editor and like podcast editor, and have already built all of these systems in terms of how we work together and how content gets made. So I was already in a position where like all of those things were running really smoothly, and we were like on top of it, and we were like, yes, we know what we're doing. This is great. And then once you're kind of like in that stable position, then I always feel like adding something new is like, you're like, that's a good time to do it. And then also pandemic. So I had more time at home because I wasn't going to events and going to meetings and like going on holiday and things. So I had more time to commit to doing a course like that as well. All right, those are all the questions I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much if you submitted a question. I hope that you're all doing well, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.